I want you to think of this video as a little pep talk between me and you about moving to Italy. Now, this is especially so if you've been sitting on the fence, you're not really sure about your decision, you've been umming and ahhing, weighing up the pros and cons, and you haven't really arrived at a definitive answer as to whether or not living in Italy is really going to be right for you. I hope by the end of this video, you will know the next steps that you need to take and also feel a bit clearer as to the fundamental aspects you need to get in place before you do any of the more practical stuff, shall we say. Now, it is true that there is one fundamental thing that if you do not get it right will mean that A, you'll probably never ever make it to Italy in the first place, or B, if you do, you will very quickly change your mind. So this is why I think we need to really get the basics right before you start doing more of the practical aspects of your move. Now, what I'm about to talk to you about is actually something that is contained within this amazing book, which I only recently started reading, Anthony Robbins' Unlimited Power. Highly, highly recommend it if you're into personal development. It is amazing. In fact, I talk about some aspects of this book in my latest podcast episode, which I'll link to up here if you fancy deep diving into it a bit more. But essentially what Anthony Robbins talks about in this book is the power of your mind and the power of your thoughts. And this is what I want to talk about today, because if you don't get these right and you allow your mind to wander and be polluted by what's going on around you, you will never, ever, ever make anything happen in your life. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about from this book is something that he refers to as the difference between the few who do versus the many who talk. Now, this is where really a lot of people trip up when it comes to moving to Italy. Everyone can talk about it, for sure. You can talk about it down the pub with your mates. You can talk about it with your friends and family. You can talk about it on social media. Anyone can talk about moving to Italy. Talk is cheap, as they say. The real value and the real point to what you're talking about comes through action. And this is where we move into the category of the few who do, because out of all of those people who have opened their mouths and willy-nilly spoke about moving to Italy, not many of them actually put those words into physical action in order to make that dream of theirs a physical reality. And there are a few different reasons, I think. Sometimes people don't know what action to take and they feel a bit stuck and procrastinate as a result. Sometimes it just feels like it's too much hard work. You know, it's easier just to keep this as a dream in your mind rather than go through all the stress of physically trying to make it happen. Sometimes it's because people think it's not possible for them, for whatever belief or limiting behaviour that they have within themselves that tells them that that kind of life is out of reach for them. And other times it's simply because people get distracted by what other people say. Right? This is the biggest thing. People will tell you, oh, it's too difficult, you shouldn't really do that. And some people actually listen to those words and allow that to influence their life choices. So I kind of feel the reason why people don't take action is very much multifaceted. However, it is in taking action that you create the life that you want. If you are really serious about moving to Italy, you've got to start taking some action, and you've got to start with what you have and the resources that you have available to you in this moment. Like, we all wait for the perfect time. I think so many people hold off for moving to Italy for the perfect moment when everything is going to be exactly as they imagined. But for many people, this moment never comes, and you end up waiting an entire lifetime until it's really too late to make what you want a reality. And so I feel like you just have to begin with what you have and where you are right now. When I first moved to Italy, I didn't have any connections here whatsoever. I'd only visited once or twice before, and I didn't know anyone here that could give me a leg up and help me set my life up here. But what I did do was that I started by doing a language exchange and coming here and staying with an Italian family for 4 weeks. I wasn't paid for that experience, but I was given free accommodation and food, and I was shown around the town, and as a result met new people, made friends, and fell in love with Salerno, because that was where I did the language exchange. And essentially it was that experience that I could do in that moment of my life with the resources I had available to me that got me a leg up to move into Italy. So it really can be as simple as that. Action, essentially, as Anthony Robbins puts it in this book, is what produces results. And honestly, one piece of action creates another moment of movement. It's like that momentum that you start to build for yourself, but it comes from taking sometimes just the most simplest step. Whether that's researching where you want to live or joining an online expat group, be careful with that, more on that to come, or whether it is, you know, reading about the country or learning the language or trying to see how else you might be able to come here just to sample life here for a bit. Simple actions lead to great results. So taking action is fundamentally one of the biggest things you need to do, and it's also one of the things that is going to get you out of your head and out of the limiting beliefs that you might have about moving to Italy and start to actually make it happen in your life. Now, when you start taking action, usually this is when you start to invite, even unwittingly, the opinions of other people. Often found in expat groups. I did tell you I would talk about them. In fact, I talk about expat groups a bit more up here if you fancy diving into this particular topic, because I do have a real love-hate relationship with them, if you don't already know by now. But essentially, the minute you start to open yourself up to this idea, you start taking action, people will give you unsolicited advice and their opinions that you just didn't ask for. And so this is why you have to be very careful and remember one thing that Anthony Robbins talks about here: nothing has any meaning except the meaning we give it. So people can give you their opinions, people can share their own experiences or what they think is right or wrong or what they feel about Italy and your decision overall. But essentially nothing has to have any meaning unless you choose to give it some meaning or value, which essentially means it's one of those take it with a pinch of salt moments. If people share with you information that you genuinely think could help you with your move to Italy, that's when you might consider sitting with that, diving a bit deeper into it and seeing what you can do with that to help you. However, if you can identify that people are just mouthing off for the sake of it, that is when you can choose not to give any kind of meaning to their words and let it go like a pinch of salt, you know? Like, this is that principle 100%, but you need to get this straight very early on, because I promise you there's something about following your dreams that triggers people, and it tends to trigger people who have unfulfilled dreams of their own or have their own limiting blocks and beliefs as to why they haven't been able to achieve the same level of success or the same dream for themselves. So you've really got to be careful who you listen to, for one, but also the meaning that you place on the words that people speak with you, because I promise you, not everything that everybody says is valuable, and you need to be a bit more discerning about who you listen to and your reasons for placing value on what they say to you. Another really important aspect to consider is what your personal beliefs are and values within yourself. Now, this is kind of really deep. You need to sit with this a little bit, but essentially our beliefs and values determine the level of success or the things that we think we can achieve in life. And this is exactly what is detailed on this book. In fact, to quote Anthony Robbins, our beliefs about what we are and what we can be precisely determine what we will be. Now, this is huge, because if you are telling yourself this story that, you know, it's too difficult for you to move to Italy, you're not able to make it work, you're too old to learn the language, you're never going to fit into a new culture. If you're telling yourself these stories, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you will talk yourself out of the very dream that you wish you could live. And this is what you have to be really careful of with these limiting beliefs and thoughts that end up consuming us and taking us in a totally different direction to the one that we really wanted. It's that famous saying, isn't it? If you believe you can or you can't, you're always right. You know, like, if you think you can do something, you can do it. If you think you can't, you can't. Everything becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so this is something that you need to be really careful of if you're planning to move to Italy. You've got to keep your mind focused on what you want, and you need to identify what is at the core of those limiting beliefs. Why is it you think that you don't deserve a life here? Why is it you think that, I don't know, settling into a new country is going to be difficult, or learning a language is going to be too hard for you? Why? You need to uncover this, because really why is the base of everything in life. But if you can uncover the reasons why you don't think you can have this life for yourself here in Italy, I really think you can start to unpick these limiting behaviours and start to see them for what they are and take action so that they don't hold you back and take you in a different direction. Something else that's really important to remember is that if it's possible for others in the world, it's also possible for you, right? How often do we forget this? Like, you've got my videos on this channel, you've got plenty of other content creators on YouTube who document their life here in Italy. If they were able to move to Italy, why can it not be possible for you? Now, of course, everybody is different. There may be bureaucratic reasons that make it a little bit more difficult, or logistical reasons, whatever it may be. But essentially, if you want to make it happen, where there is a will, there is a way. I've said this in many other videos. Essentially, you can model other people, and this is another principle that Anthony Robbins talks about in his book, is this principle of modelling. Like, success leaves clues, we all know this, and essentially people who have achieved the things that you want in your life, generally speaking, follow a similar pattern. And it is about studying those people, watching videos of people who have moved to Italy. What is it about them that has made that possible? Is it their mindset? Is it their outlook on life? Is it the thing that they've decided to do in Italy for themselves? What is it that made it possible for them to be able to move to Italy, which you could perhaps replicate for yourself? What steps did they take? What things did they focus on in order to have made that a reality for themselves? And this is something that I think is super important. Like, you can learn from other people. We can all learn from each other. But essentially, when you want to make a big move to Italy, you've got to be looking around at those people who have already done it and learn something from them. Learn something from their experiences, from the advice that they want to share with you, and generally speaking, from their journey, how they got there in the first place. Learn something from them, because everybody, as I said before, can teach us something. And sometimes it is far easier if you have so-called role models or people that you can look up to who have achieved what you desire, that you can replicate, than it is trying to do it on your own from scratch, because it's difficult. Look for those who have already done the hard work and see what you can learn from their experience, because I promise you, with anybody who has moved to Italy, there is something that that person has done that could benefit you, or there is some kind of learning or piece of advice that they want to share that could help you in your situation. So model the behaviours of people who have moved to Italy, because if it's possible for them, that is absolutely possible for you too. And kind of the last aspect that I want to focus on from this book is something that is so true. We must daily weed our garden. There is this really famous quote that says something like, "Our thoughts are like seeds. You can water them into flowers or grow them into weeds." I don't know, it's something like this. I think I've quoted it completely wrong, but it is this, right? Our thoughts can either help us and make us grow and flourish in the same way that flowers do, or they can hinder us and make us become something really small and take us away from what it is that we desire. That is the power of our thoughts. And so I really want you to be clear on the thoughts that you're having around Italy. Find those limiting beliefs and behaviours, eradicate them, weed your garden that is your mind. Get your thoughts clear, prime your mind for moving to Italy. Because as much as it might sound a bit airy-fairy and woo-woo, I promise you this is the difference between those who are going to talk about moving to Italy for the rest of their lives and those who are going to pack up their lives and their suitcases and actually make it happen. I'll see you in the next video.